But do you think it's like depends on the individual which one they are, or
So I really think this is the same problem. Honestly, I think it's the same problem. So when we are not capable of dealing with the subtext of the social society, the nice, polite society says, hey, don't be that blunt. Don't say it like that. But it's like trying to do like a super spy mission where you've got, all of those moving invisible lasers and we don't have the dust that lets you see the lasers. So we're having to navigate blind. And so we're always setting off alarms. We're always messing it up because we're saying the quiet part out loud. We're tripping those invisible sensors and we can't see them. So what happens is we are yelled at all the time here, which means our environment at a baseline is hostile, but we don't know why. So what do we look for? We look for people who are going to help us navigate the lasers. Who can show us where the lasers are? Well, typically people who can show us where the lasers are very good at Machiavellian traits. They tend to have elevated narcissism and they tend to be Machiavellian. They also, because they're Machiavellian, are more than willing to use us as well, because they can see the fact that we personally are not going to lie to them. We're going to be blunt. We're going to tell them all the information because we finally have a friend. And because we finally have a friend, we're just going to share all of this information with them. They can use that, and either we outlive our usefulness or we end up in a situation where we can be a convenient scapegoat. And because they're Machiavellian, they already knew they were going to be able to do this. They can discard us when we become inconvenient to them. This is very typical, right? So we look for people who are going to help us navigate the maze, but there's a cost to that navigation. It's a massive issue. So we find people who will take us under their wing, but they are manipulators. The other problem is then we go for people who are very, very blunt, which increases antisocial traits, right? Maybe not antisocial to the point of completely dysfunctional, but antisocial in the more aggressive, more blunt, more engaged in a forceful way, right? The assholes, the jerks, the people who are maybe countercultural in really kind of in your face kind of ways. And we end up in those situations, and because we end up in those situations, that aggression is comforting because we know where we stand with them. Even if they're kind of jerks about it, we know where they stand. And so we know where we are, we know where they are, and yet that anger, that dysfunction, that, rage, that aggression can spill over onto us, which again can put us in really toxic situations. But in some ways, this is no less harsh than the regular environment that's hitting us randomly that we have no idea why. So for most of this, the unwillingness of the allistic society to engage with us, and neurotypical especially society to engage with us and help us navigate this, means that we are ripe for the picking for all of the abusive environments that are going to do this in a more overt way. We're actually becoming more primed for the extreme kinds of abuse because the abuse here, we don't even know why. At least here, we understand where we stand. And so we have a tendency to fall into those places because of the fact that this abusive environment doesn't even give us answers as to why we're being punished. So it all sucks and it's bad for us.